Welcome to Therapy in the Great Outdoors, a podcast about the business and practice of nature-based pediatric therapy of all kinds. If you are a nature-loving therapist who works with children, this podcast will help you start taking your work outdoors into nature and help you grow a profitable nature-based therapy practice or program that connects children to nature and changes their lives and yours forever. I'm your host, the ever honest, always 100% real, Laura Park Figueroa. I have been a pediatric occupational therapist for over 20 years. But 7 years ago, I almost left the field entirely. I was so burned out. And nature-based therapy is what saved me. It reignited my love of my work, and I saw profound changes in the children that I was working with. I'm the founder of Outdoor Kids OT and the creator of the Contigo approach, an evidence-based framework for nature-based pediatric therapy services. I've helped dozens of pediatric therapists start and grow successful nature-based practices through my business coaching and online programs, the latest of which is the Therapy in the Great Outdoors community, TIGO for short. TIGO is an online membership site with loads of resources to support you every step of the way as you start and grow your nature-based therapy work. You can find out more at therapyinthegreatoutdoors.com. Working outdoors with children can be a wild ride. Are you ready for the adventure? Let's jump in. Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 14 of Therapy in the Great Outdoors. I'm going to give you a little update on my work, which will relate to one of the questions today, because this episode is going to be a listener Q&A, an Ask Me Anything, and we have some good questions. I just got back from a nature-based OT retreat called Grounded to Grow, which was planned by 4 people who I know and love from previous work I've done in this nature-based space. And it was all OTs, 20 OTs came together over the course of 3 or 4 days in Northern Illinois at this beautiful retreat center. And it was just chock full of connection and activities and sharing ideas and learning about just every single topic you could possibly think of related to nature-based OT. So it was super fun. And I know that there is a multidisciplinary audience that listens to this podcast, but the reason I share this is because I really was reflecting a lot while I was there on how when I first started my practice 7 years ago, I don't think I really had a vision for how big and how important this work doing nature-based therapy could become. And so I feel like I was sitting in this retreat center room looking at all of these therapists who are doing such incredible things with kids and feeling so invigorated and loving their work again. So it just was a really great time together. And I think it's even bigger than that. Like, that was just OTs. And to think of the impact that this work could have in other professions as well. If you're a speech therapist, a physical therapist, a mental health counselor, there are so many ways that work in nature with children can revive our love of our work and really bring about transformation in families' lives. And so it was just, I'm still reflecting, as you can tell, because I'm kind of thinking as I say things here, but it was just so inspiring to be around people who are doing such great work. And it was a little imposter syndrome for me as well, like just seeing all the cool things everyone is doing. I think naturally in our human brain, there's this tendency to compare. And one of the things I talked about, and it was a community-based kind of retreat where everybody taught something. And so one of the things that I shared when I was there was just my honest struggles with like comparing to other people and feeling like you come up short. And the reality is you can't be good in everything. we need one another in this community, in this nature-based therapy community. We need one another. And the strengths that someone else has are going to be the weaknesses that you have. And sometimes it's hard to face that, honestly. I mean, it's hard to face that. But I think that leaning into that is a good growth process for all of us to do, to know that we have our strengths, others have their strengths, and we're in it together. And that's the way that we can bring about real transformation in the world, is when we lean on each other and come together. And so the organizers just did such a great job. Little shout out to the organizers. It was Nicole Gordon of Outside OT, Angela Rosenberg of Treeline Enrichment, Marika Austin of Barefoot OT, and Kate Davis of Adaptations Unlimited. So you can go check them out online. And if you are an OT who is currently working in nature-based practice, that is a stipulation of the retreat, is that they wanted people coming who were currently working in nature-based practice, even if you were new to it, but they didn't want it to be a place for people to be asking a lot of startup questions. So, and that did make for a very rich experience there. So if you are an OT who is currently working in nature and you want to join the waitlist, you can go to groundedtogrow.com, I think it is. Yep, groundedtogrow.com, and you'll get on the waitlist for the next one. I don't know how often they will do them, but it was a really great time and I highly recommend it. So let's dive into some questions for today. I want to assure you all that I will start doing 10-minute takeaway research episodes again. But the little update on my work life is that I am in complete and utter overwhelm mode right now with the workload that I have. So I am working really hard to try to finish my dissertation by December. I am not sure I will hit that deadline. It might be next May by the time I finish, but I'm trying really hard to finish that to meet that deadline. And so it is putting a lot of pressure on me. And I also am running my business coaching programs, which I totally love. And that takes a little bit of time each week. And I am running my practice in California from here in Wisconsin, where I live now. And so we're onboarding all of our new employees and getting ready for groups to start in a few weeks. So this was not a week where I had time to read an article, synthesize it, write the outline, and record the podcast for you. Those episodes take a lot of time to produce. So I thought listener Q&As are always helpful, because I think a lot of times when we listen to podcasts, we have questions that come up, but we don't have a venue to ask them, right, of whoever's doing the podcast. So occasionally on Instagram, I will just put time for a listener Q&A on my stories, and you can type in your questions. So if you want your questions answered on the podcast, feel free to DM me on Instagram. You can PM me on Facebook, but I am not as good there about finding messages. It's just, I don't know, they hide them somehow. So I might miss it there. So, or you can reply to my stories, and then I'll answer your questions on a future listener Q&A. Okay, so the first listener question that I had this time, there are three questions that we'll cover. The first one was, as a business owner in the first couple years, did you achieve work-life balance? This is from Rachel_Cheryl on Instagram. And then she wrote, and now, and I don't know if she meant and how, or if she meant and how is it now? So I kind of answered that right now. I do think there is a real point at which you just literally have too big of a workload and you have to go a little bit slower on everything that you're working on. Things take more time when you are overloaded with work because you are limited in the time that you have. So, but I'll circle back to, as a business owner in the first couple of years, did I achieve work-life balance? So this is an interesting question because I've heard a lot of OTs talk about how work-life balance is not a thing. It's not even possible, you know, and I don't know, I guess I haven't really thought much about it, but I don't know if I agree with that. I actually think that your mood or your energy or the vibe or feeling you have about your life is a good measure of your work-life balance. So, do I work a lot right now? Yes, I do. Do I enjoy my work and totally love it? And yes, I do. So, but do I need to schedule time for rest? Absolutely. Because I'll just work, work, work. That's just because I love my work. So I'll work, 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 and then not realize that I'm burning out and exhausted. In the first few years as a business owner, I think it is okay that you are a little bit in what we call like hustle mode. You're doing all the things. You're trying to get all the things organized. And I think that you can just plan that things are going to take 5 to 10 times longer than you think they would take when you are first starting out, and plan that way. So when you're first starting out, you need a lot more time to plan for things than you do later on, because later on, hopefully you have systems in your business, right? So as you're first starting out, you are just in major learning mode. Your brain is just constantly learning new things about how to run a business and all of the things that you have to do to run a business. I think, again, work-life balance, it just means different things to different people. I loved running my business. I still do. I have more businesses actually, because we have real estate investment company too that we started, my husband and I. So I'm running multiple businesses now, and it's because I love it. It's because I totally love it. So I don't know. I mean, this is a hard question to answer, because I think the answer is going to be different for every person out there based on what you particularly need in your life. I think this would be a really great question to dive into in an interview with someone, maybe to talk about what that means and to kind of unpack these ideas more. It's hard for me just answering this question right here to like kind of know all the context and like what this person really meant by this question and what information would be most useful. Yeah, I think burnout was a topic actually that we talked about at the Marika talked about it at the Grounded to Grow retreat. And I think it's more prevalent than we think in people. And burnout essentially is just an imbalance of work like taking over your life, right? And feeling like you have too much to do. And it's a combo of a lot of things, I think, not just workload, but like Marika did a whole presentation about all the aspects of burnout. And it's very interesting to look at when that work-life balance is not achieved and you are not feeling like you have balance in your life. I think that's the definition of burnout. And there's a lot of factors in that. It's not just workload. It's actually, I don't remember all of the things, and I don't have my notes in front of me. I didn't even think I was going to talk about this actually, but it's about, feeling a sense of personal achievement, feeling connected to people, feeling that your work matters in the world. There's a lot of those things that go into not burning out in your work and keeping your work-life balance. So I think it's attending to work-life balance is essentially attending to your own body and your own emotions, and knowing when you need to step back and take a break, and knowing what resources and supports you need in order to continue moving forward with your work in a way that's healthy. I will say that in my research and in my experiences interacting with nature-based therapists, I do think that nature-based work is actually much healthier in terms of work-life balance for people. That is what therapists in my research reported, is that they just feel more at ease in their work. They feel more at ease in the doing of the actual sessions with children where they're outdoors with kids. And they feel like working outdoors contributes to their own mental health and physical well-being as well, in a way that working indoors in typical treatment settings didn't offer them. So it's just an interesting little tidbit that maybe work-life balance might be a little bit easier to achieve when you have a nature-based practice or business. But the reality is that running a business takes, I say this a lot, running a nature-based business is more than just outdoor play and facilitating great outdoor experiences for children. You really have to think about the business aspects of running your practice or program. And I think those are the things that tend to stress out or burn out a lot of therapists. So that's why I truly enjoy the work I do supporting people, helping them in their businesses, because I think that helps them get kind of a handle on those things and understand those things so that they can enjoy the work more and have better work-life balance. Even though I know there's people that would say work-life balance isn't a thing, it's elusive and all of that, but I won't try to psychoanalyze the question here. So Right now for me, I guess if the question is and now, like what is it like now? I am actually the things that help me stay sane in running multiple businesses and doing all the work that I do is that I take good care of my physical health and I make sure to get outside multiple times a week. So those are just basic health practices that I do, like self-care practices that I do. And the reality for me right now is that my life is a lot less stressful because I only have one child at home. I love my kids, don't get me wrong, but one child versus having three children at home, because my older ones are out of the house now living on their own. They actually live together in California. They're going to community college at the same place. So that's really sweet. And I'm going to go visit them in like a week and a half. I get to go there. So yeah, so I think there's a rhythm in my life now too that I have more time and space for work because I'm not managing young children. So those of you out there that are raising young children, or even more if you are single parenting, I think be gentle with yourself. Just know that your capacity is not going to be the same as someone else's who has more time, free time to focus without interruption in their lives. So I remember those days during COVID when I had three kids at home and I was working in a little partitioned off corner of my son's bedroom in our tiny house in California, trying to run my businesses from home while all five of us were there. And it was crazy. So it was not so long ago that I was there, and now I feel a lot more freedom and space and time and expansive, energy where I can kind of focus without interruption. So, okay, next question. Samabivi, Samabivi, asked, should we start off with an LLC when the business is still an idea, or should we wait until it is launched? So this is a good question, and I'm going to talk about several different things here. So you might not need an LLC, first of all. So there are several different ways that you can start a business. Lots of people start a business just as their personal name as a sole proprietor. That's not smart for taxes, but you can do that. And I did that, I don't know, 17 years ago when I first started seeing kids privately for therapy on the side. I was just a sole proprietor. I filed under my social security number and got paid for services, reported the income, and that was it. So you don't necessarily, I want to start this question by saying you might not necessarily be an LLC, okay, if you're providing nature-based therapy services or therapy services in general, really. This is kind of just a general business question. And along those lines too, you might actually not be able to be an LLC because where I lived in the state of California, they have a weird law that people interpret differently. I'm not a lawyer, disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer, but they have a weird law in California that certain licensed professions cannot be LLCs. They have to be professional corporations. So in California, my business cannot be an LLC. So I just want to be really clear that don't necessarily assume that your nature-based business is going to be an LLC. Now, an LLC is great if you can do that in your area because it's lower cost than running a corporation, like fee-wise, usually to your local municipality. But don't assume that you are going to be an LLC. And I think this is probably just relating to American listeners because I don't know what the business structures are in other countries. So the question though is, should we start off with an LLC, like start up the LLC when the business is still an idea, or should we wait until we've done some services in the business and it's launched? And I guess there's kind of a middle answer to this question, which is you could pilot some programs in your local community by giving free services or very low cost services. Or like I said, you don't have to have the LLC in place before you accept a little money for services. That's not necessary at all. I think going through the process to actually start the business, like start the LLC, if you were going to do an LLC, it requires that you are pretty certain that you want to keep that business name, that because you're going to put your business name on that LLC is going to be named whatever your business name is. And you want to be pretty certain that you know the business is really going to go, that you really want to start your business because it costs money to start an LLC. To start a corporation costs a lot more. So you want to be sure that you're going to run a business and you are committed to starting a business when you start the LLC. Now, do people start LLCs and close them a few years later because they're not doing the business? Yes, absolutely. I don't know, the statistics, I shared it on Instagram once. Like the statistics are crazy for how many businesses start and then shut down within the first 2 years even. So I want to save you time and energy and know that like you don't have to do that right off the bat. You can pilot some things, you can try some things in your local community, do some market research to find out if this service is even desirable and if people would pay for it. A lot of times what people say they will do is not what they will actually do. So if there is any way, like for example, if you surveyed people and said, would you come to an outdoor therapy group? They might say yes, you might get 30 people interested. And then when you launch the service, no one registers. So I want you to be careful about doing market research, know that it's a need in your area, and then go through the work, maybe even run pilot programs, and then go through the work of starting the business officially. So I hope that helps with some insight related to that question. And then the last question is one that someone actually asked me at the retreat. And I'm going to repeat my answer here because I thought it was a really good question. So I ran multiple sessions, but I ran one on marketing. And it really was not me presenting about marketing. It was more crowdsourcing ideas of what everybody in the room had found successful for marketing. But a question was posed to me during the time that we had to talk about marketing. But Laura, for you in your business, when you were first getting started, what was the most helpful marketing strategy for you? And I had to think about that because it's been like 7 years. And what I did when I first started out to get the word out, now I did preface my answer with the fact that I had worked in my local community in a public school and seen private kids on the side for 10 years before I started my nature-based practice. So I already had some clients that I pretty much just told my private clients, I pretty much just told them that I was going to start doing outdoor work and that they could follow me, or I could give them resources of, referrals to other occupational therapists that work in clinic-based settings in the community. And so they all followed me. And that's how I started my practice, was by kind of forming groups around the kids that I already was seeing privately. What worked for me early on was, believe it or not, Facebook ads. Do not run Facebook ads right now to try to get clients for your business unless you really know what you're doing, because the landscape has changed with Facebook ads. So you have to do a pretty significant ad spend to get in front of people. So, and by significant, I mean several $1,000s a month. So I would not recommend Facebook ads as a way anymore that I would tell people to get clients. But I do know that I got 2 clients from running about like $300 in Facebook ads maybe back then. Not possible nowadays based on what I've learned in lots of group coaching programs I've been in, as well as actually running Facebook ads myself for some of my online work. So I wouldn't recommend that, but that was one strategy that worked. I recommend printing very simple flyers with an engaging photo that shows what you do with some very simple information. Do not put dates, do not put locations, do not put anything that would like make you not able to use the flyers in the future, but small postcards that have some photos or a photo and some basic information about your business, and pepper your whole community with those. Anywhere there's a community bulletin board, a library, a supermarket, any place where parents that would be interested in your services might be out in the community, any place that you're allowed to leave those little postcards, put those postcards out so that the word is out there about your services and people can tangibly pick up something to throw in their backpack or their purse or whatever, so that when they go home, they will be reminded of your business. They can stick it up on their fridge, or they can actually look up your website and hopefully join your email list, which is the thing that I almost forgot to say when we were at the retreat. Email marketing. I did a podcast episode here on Therapy in the Great Outdoors on email marketing. I have another one on Mind Your OT Business. Just looked them up. They're episode 34 of Mind Your OT Business and episode 5 of this podcast, Therapy in the Great Outdoors, all about email marketing. So when that person gets your flyer in the community, they go to your website, they join your email list, and that way you have contact information for them to be able to share with them when you have programs open in your community. You can incentivize them to join your email list by giving them a lead magnet, or which is something that you offer for free. Like ours is 5 ways to use nature to help your child's attention. That's what we use in my practice. You could also just offer first dibs on registration for your programs. That is something that could incentivize a really interested family to join your email list. Then after that, you have a sequence of emails that goes out that helps them for free before they ever become a customer. I feel like I talk about this all the time, but I want to repeat it because I truly believe that email marketing was one of the number one things that helped my practice to get a very wide client base in the very beginning and have a wait list for years. So I mean, we're very small. Let me be clear about that. I wasn't hiring full-time therapists and having a wait list, but we were very small with several part-time therapists, and we've always had wait lists because we have a sequence of emails that is constantly going out to people that are interested in our services that share helpful information with them that hopefully relates to their relationship with their child and their life at home and can really make them see my business as a helpful source of information for them, even if they never become a customer. But it might incentivize them to value our services and trust us enough to become a customer if they have need for therapy services for their child. So, and then lastly, I also just want to make a comment about personal connections and in-person marketing. So this kind of relates to word of mouth. I think everyone kind of knows that word of mouth is probably the very best form of marketing, right? You provide a good service, people tell other people about it, word of mouth. Now, I find that word of mouth can be vastly, exponentially increased if you get in front of people, like physically in person with people, now that we can do that again after 2 years of pandemic at time of this recording, 2.5 years, gosh. So if you get in front of people, in person with people, doing presentations for school programs or for preschools, this is what I used to do when my practice first started. I did preschool presentations about outdoor play or preschool screenings, or I consulted with some forest schools about sensory processing, things like that. Then you're vastly increasing the number of people that know about your business and your services when you can do those types of free presentations. And yes, it takes a lot of time. Sometimes the things in marketing that we tend to shy away from are the things that take the most time, our own personal time and energy, because they are in-person things. They require us to show up and be present and be with other people. And I think that those types of things actually have the most bang for their buck, probably because the value of those personal connections cannot be overstated because it's so important. That's what I'm meaning to say. Okay, that's it for today. I hope some of these questions helped you all as you are running your practice or maybe just thinking about it. Come on over to the Therapy in the Great Outdoors community and I will see you inside. Or that always sounds weird to say that, inside the community, but we're all about outdoors and therapy. So I'll see you inside the Therapy in the Great Outdoors community. Bye. Thank you so much for spending time with me today, exploring therapy in the great outdoors. If you liked what you heard in this episode, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes so we can share the magic of nature-based therapy with a wider audience of therapists who work with children who desperately need connection to nature nowadays, just like we do. If you're ready to take the next step in this adventure, join our free Therapy in the Great Outdoors community at therapyinthegreatoutdoors.com. The TIGO community is a private space just for nature-based pediatric practitioners. We have loads of resources there to support you as you start or grow a nature-based practice or program. Our free TIGO community has a discussion forum, a jobs and volunteers board, a crowdsourced treatment activities section, as well as free video trainings, research article reviews, and book recommendations from yours truly. Head on over to therapyinthegreatoutdoors.com to join today. So until next time, get outside, connect, reflect, and enjoy the business and practice of therapy in the great outdoors.